Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Michael Greger coming to you live from my treadmill for my monthly Q&A session. Just did a Facebook Live. And now doing this. For those who aren't familiar with my work, every year I read through every issue of every English language nutrition journal in the world. So busy folks like you don't have to. And then compile all the most interesting, most groundbreaking, most practical findings and new videos and articles I upload every day to my nonprofit site, NutritionFacts.org. Everything on the website is free. There are no ads, no commercial sponsorships, strictly non-commercial, no corporate sponsorships. Everything's free. No ads, just put up as a public service, as a labor of love, as a tribute to my grandmother, which is why I do everything that I do. Let us get to these questions, and so I can answer them for you. They are flowing in. All right, so I'm going to go to the top, and hopefully they won't flow too fast. Richard asks, if a smoothie contains berries, beans, and greens, wow, you're making me hungry. Is it okay to blend oats into the smoothie, or is it better to stir them in after blending so they're not ground into flour? It would be kind of weird. How would you drink a smoothie with raw oatmeal? Are you thinking like cooked oatmeal? I mean, you could pour your smoothie onto oatmeal. I think what Richard is talking about is a video I did talking about how there's a tier even healthier than whole grains. So obviously we want to stay away from refined grains. We want to stick to whole grains. But there are whole grain flour products and then intact whole grains. And so ideally, instead of just using whole grain products, we should use intact whole grain products. So for example, oatmeal and quinoa, etc., as opposed to something like whole wheat spaghetti or whole grain bread, where the grains are powdered. And the reason, not only because of the glycemic response, but then we so thoroughly digest those foods when it's powdered like that, that we leave none for our gut bacteria. We are essentially starving our microbial cells. So they did a study where they compared eating, I will turn that ringer off. Sorry about that. I've had interviews all day long. So there's a study that looked at, for example, eating chickpeas versus eating hummus, eating, tahini versus sesame seeds, things like that. And they found that indeed there was a greater stool weight, meaning a greater growth of bacteria, of a good gut bacteria, when you eat the exact same foods, but in unblended form, because then some of those pieces make it down and can feed our good bacteria with starch. So intact grains are good, but it doesn't have to be at every meal necessarily. You can blend your oats up or just eat them. You'd think you'd enjoy them more if you just took some steel cut oats and added some berries and nuts and seeds and cinnamon, all sorts of wonderful things on top. So that would be my recommendation. And then you can have a smoothie next to it with all the other wonderful stuff. Anyway, all right. Richard asks another question. Say, wait a second, 2 in a row. Well, hey, he got here first. And next time, if you get here first, you can ask multiple questions too. So the question from Richard is, for my optimum nutrition recommendations, are there target quantities for smaller children? And indeed, yes, there are different recommendations for B12, D, etc. There's a good list at a website by Jack Norris called veganhealth.org. And so has basically a chart. It says at this many kilograms, at this age, you take this amount for whatever. So although there's a new study just came out suggesting that children, I believe 8 through 14, these were in Pittsburgh, needed 2,000 international units a day during the winter months. I think it was from October through April, to get their vitamin D levels to good. And so 2,000 international units, that's what I encourage everyone, the adults, to take. So it may be for kids over 8 that 2,000 would apply all the way down to that age. Bill asks, Bill says, Dr. Greger, for Surgeon General, make eating plants cool again. Sounds good to me. Mrs. L asks if I have any advice for people with thyroid issues. Oh, specifically, you don't have a thyroid. Thank you. You're welcome for the work. Thyroid issues. If you don't have a thyroid, then you need to take a thyroid hormone replacement therapy, something like thyroxine. There's not much more one can say about that. But for people who still have a thyroid, which is either underactive or overactive, the Adventist 2 data now coming out, the largest study of plant-based eaters, suggests that those who eat healthy are more likely to be euthyroid, meaning healthy, have a healthy thyroid levels, less hyperthyroidism, for example. But there's actually new data on actually treating, lowering one's thyroxine dose for someone with hypothyroidism through a dietary intervention. But it's funny, I was on Facebook half an hour ago, and I couldn't remember which of the topics I'd run across that. And what I do is I go through, I have an army of volunteers retrieving articles for me. So I send them a list. I want these 1,000 articles. They bring them back to me. And so I can just read the abstracts and forget which of the topics that was helping. But stay tuned, and I will, and the daily videos and blogs, I will eventually get around to that one. And so if you're subscribed, you get an email about it. Bill, again, is back saying questions antioxidant efficacy from ground spices. So I say I should get our antioxidants from real foods and to avoid supplements. Well, ground spices are real foods. When I say real foods, I mean whole food, plant-based. A ground spice is a whole food, ground up, but it's there. Look, even instant oatmeal, that's a whole food. They grind it really small so it cooks quickly, but it's still a whole food. Now, would steel cut oats be better to feed your gut microbes? Sure. But I don't know, ground spice is good. Yes, you can take them in a capsule or something if you wanted to, because they're so potent you can just take small amounts of them, like a quarter teaspoon of turmeric every day. But no reason you can't just sprinkle that turmeric onto your food. Bill again asks, we had some Amla and ground cloves to a morning smoothie. Disgusting, but very healthy. Should we consider them real foods or bad supplements? No, that's real foods. Amla is just a fruit that's dried, cloves. I don't know what botanically that is, but it's health promoting as well. In fact, the most potent source of antioxidants, right? Cloves. All right. Jen G asks that it's been her experience that endometriosis and fibrocystic breast symptoms switched off by a plant-based diet and on by an animal-based diet. I have some videos on fibrocystic breast disease. Do I have endometriosis? I know I have either they're coming or they're already on the site. I get mixed up often. But just type in endometriosis and pop right up. I have a bunch of videos coming up regardless. And I already have some fibrocystic breast disease. And so what you're describing would make sense given from what we know from the science. Intralimpidus asks, how much calcium do you recommend adolescents get every day? No, 600 milligrams should do it. And of course, that's from whole foods, right? Like low oxalate dark green leafies. That's the best source of calcium because of all the wonderful things that come with it. Jen G is back asking, what's her little icon? Flowers. I thought it was pumpkins for a second. What do I make of the claim that the B12 in algae diminishes bioavailable B12 in the blood? That's only if you don't have a source of B12. So there are B12 analogs in certain seaweeds, sea vegetables, that are unusable by the body. And in fact, if you are critically low on B12, may actually interfere, may actually kind of clog up some of our B12 receptors. But that's only a problem for people not getting B12. So as long as you're getting B12, so I recommend 2,500 micrograms once a week of cyanocobalamin, get all the B12 you need, then you need not worry about consuming B12 analogs. Okay, Jen G also asked, what is it in animal byproducts specifically that causes the lactic acid type sensation, a soreness and sluggishness in the muscles? I don't know of anything that would cause like instant soreness and sluggishness in one's muscles. Whatever, if you eat something and it causes that, stop eating whatever it is, regardless of what it is. All right, Hike Vegan asks, understands that folic acid is something to be avoided, meaning synthetic folic acid pills, and it's found in many brands. And nutrition yeast is worth to get to purchase a brand without folic acid. So if you eat lots of nutritional yeast, so like if it's a daily thing, then yeah, taking as long as you're getting enough food folate, meaning you eat lots of beans, lots of greens every day, then yeah, getting a non folic acid supplemented source of nutrition yeast would be great. If you're not taking a B12 supplement, though, you want to make sure it is B12 fortified nutrition yeast if that is your only source. Mrs. L asks, do I have advice for, this is Mrs. L without a thyroid. Do I have any advice for people without a thyroid regarding B12, D, selenium, iodine, iron? Well, I guess I mean, the only thing that would really matter is, I guess you would throw your iodine requirements off, because the principal reason we need iodine is to create thyroid hormones, but you're actually taking thyroid hormones because you don't have a thyroid. And so presumably you would not have the same requirements. Barb Hanley asks, does nutritional yeast turn folic acid into folate? No. Nope. So whatever manufacturer told you that is lying to you. Hike asks, are omega-3 supplements for microalgae free from BMAA, a neurotoxin associated with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease? Yes. BMAA is made by blue-green algae, and so that's why you need, it'd be ideal to stay away from blue-green algae supplements, to stay away from seafood, stay away from spirulina, which can be contaminated with blue-green algae, but chlorella is okay because it's a green algae, not a blue-green algae, and the DHA is from golden algae, completely different, and so don't have to worry about BMAA. Miriam asks, what is the best whole food plant-based advice for women getting off the pill and looking to avoid weight gain and acne? The best advice is to eat healthy. And so eat a whole food plant-based diet. What else do you need? And that should take care of both the weight gain and the acne. Nicola Newington asks, I mentioned in the book that I don't recommend kombucha. Why? Because just type in kombucha into NutritionFacts.org. You see there's a case report of lactic acidosis resulting in a coma from kombucha consumption. And so I prefer my foods not to kill me or not to even give me the risk of dying. And so that's why. So it's extremely rare, but why take the risk unless there's something you can't get otherwise. And the other fermented foods, the problem is the salt. So the reason sauerkraut, kimchi, other things, highly salted, the salt isn't good for you. It's not that the cabbage isn't good for you or the lactic acid bacteria aren't good for you. But if you really, really love sauerkraut, then fine. Take sauerkraut, put it in a colander, rinse it under running water, get rid of at least some of that salt. I mean, you still have that nice tangy flavor, but you'll dramatically decrease the salt content. And sodium is not good for us. We should really try to stay under 1,500 milligrams a day, which is the American Heart Association recommendation. Mary Margaret Salters asks, she enjoyed my video on advanced glycation end products and polycystic ovary syndrome. Do I have any other recommendations for a PCOS diet? Yes. In fact, I think in this new volume, so I just released volume 35, and these are the videos that will be coming up on Nutrition Facts. I think I have a whole video on PCOS. So stay tuned. It's popping right up. Richard asks, is folic acid found? Somebody really likes folic acid questions. Folic acid found in nutrition is something we should try to. Oh, yeah, we already did that. Okay. Renata. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. Omega-6 to 3 disbalance. In spite of a whole food plant-based diet and 20 grams of flaxseed daily. Are you eating too many mixed nuts? Well, you could. I mean, if that was if you're in a most people get omega-6s from junky oils, cottonseed oil, corn oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, and junk food that contain those oils because they're cheap. But if you're not eating oils, well, first of all, I wouldn't worry about your ratio and you're getting your flax seeds. But if for some reason you wanted to change your ratio, you could choose nuts that are higher in omega-3s versus omega-6s, like walnuts. Walnuts are healthy anyway, but it's not something I would worry about if you are eating a whole food plant-based diet. Cynthia, RN, Nurse Cynthia, asks, is there a plant source for effectively healing a leaky gut, or is bovine colostrum the only food that heals this common malady? Why would colostrum from a bovine help human gut leakiness? I would be surprised if that were the case, but I've not done research into bovine colostrum, so would have to look that up. Gut leakiness. The best way to heal gut leakiness is to keep your gut microbes happy. Your gut microbiome is one of the roles is to maintain that nice barrier function in your epithelial lining of your gut. And so keep our gut flora happy. How do you do that? Do you take probiotics? No, you take prebiotics. And when I say take, I mean eat legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, lentils, whole grains, sources of fiber, whole plant foods, which have resistant starch and fiber, the two things that your good gut bacteria eat. And so they will grow and multiply and maintain your barrier function. Renata is back asking even some flaxseed. Okay, same question. Okay, moving on to V. Phelps. Have been eating a whole food plant-based diet for 1.5 years, still have high triglycerides. And wondering if he or she is eating too many whole fruits. And the answer is no. So the studies where you give people whole fruits and triglycerides actually go down. Now, too much fruit juice would do it. If you have high triglycerides, I would encourage moving to intact grains, so away from even whole grain flour products like bread. That should bring your triglycerides down. What would I recommend? And also, no added sugars, etc. Okay. Mrs. L is back and asks, what would I recommend? Oh, for a vegan with high cholesterol, because they have low thyroid hormones. You treat the cause and you get your thyroid hormones fixed, either by presumably, in your case, without a thyroid, taking an adequate adequate level of thyroxine hormone replacement therapy. Victoria asked, do I know if there's a natural way to avoid getting loose skin when losing a lot of weight, or to tighten it after significant weight loss? No, the only way is to not gain that weight in the first place. Otherwise, there's surgical approaches, or you just don't worry about it and be happy that you've lost all that weight. All right, Victoria asks another question. Heard that, oh yeah, that's awesome. Oh yeah, so she was saying that I am going to be on an upcoming show, a TV show from the creator of The Biggest Loser, J.D. Roth, absolutely. I'm very excited about that. It should be out this year. I think I'm going to be in a couple episodes. Okay, Thomas asks, or says, Thomas has a bad upset stomach, probably from some over-the-counter cold medication. So a good whole food plant-based treatment for an upset stomach / diarrhea. Those are kind of two separate things. If you look for dyspepsia, dyspepsia, that is the kind of medical term for upset stomach. Into Nutrition Facts, it'll pop right up. I think the dyspepsia video that most recently was on carbonated water, so drinking like club soda or something for dyspepsia. Don't quote me. Check it out on the site and make sure. Listen to the videos. Don't necessarily listen to me live, because there's just, with how many videos? I must have 2,000 videos. And sometimes I can get things mixed up, particularly under an avalanche of all the new studies that are coming out. So I don't want to mix things up. Always go to the site, because that is something that's fact-checked extensively. Okay, Sylvia, spelled differently than I'm used to, says he or she, it looks like she from the picture, is been a vegan for a year and a half with aphthous ulcers. But is better now, but what more could you do? So aphthous ulcers, also those little cold sore you see the inside of your lip. Do I have, look up aphthous on NutritionFacts.org. I don't know if I have any videos on that. Check it out. Let me know. If I don't, then type in aphthous and diet into PubMed.gov and see if anything pops up. And if it does, and if there's a paywall, let me know. I'll get the article for you. If it's something good, I'll do a video about it. Super Bruba asks, are vegan protein powders derived from pea protein unhealthy? They're unhealthy. Well, so foods aren't unhealthy or healthy. They are healthier or unhealthier. And so is pea protein healthy compared to what? Compared to peas? No way. Eat your peas, right? And when they say pea protein, they don't mean like green garden peas. They're talking about like yellow split peas. Eat yellow split peas as opposed to a pea protein powder, because then in addition to getting the protein, you get all the other wonderful nutrients found in the whole pea. You're not just getting isolated pea protein. Again, whole food, plant-based. A pea protein isolate is not a whole food. Robert says he loves how life is so simple. Exercise and eat healthy, 2 simple things we should all be doing anyways. Yep, I couldn't agree more. Steve, so not really a question, just a statement. Steve asks, does the antioxidant level in green tea fall with repeated brewing in the same leaves? Absolutely. But it doesn't go to 0, so you can keep rebrewing over and over again, and you'll get less and less, but it's better than nothing. It's better than just drinking water. All right. Stebri asks, would I recommend more? Capitalized MORE. I don't know if that's an acronym for something. He or she is saying they get plant-based and lifestyle health advice from a dietitian, nurse practitioner, or a physician. Are you asking who to get it from? You would get it from someone who knows the most. Both dietitians, NPs, PAs, and physicians would typically know very little about healthy diets. Surprising, especially since dietitians, that's all they do is study nutrition. But unfortunately, they're being taught and funded in many ways by the very food companies that are trying to confuse the public rather than educate the public. There was just a story today of, I guess, the new head of the, I have to look at the story, new head of A&D, the Academy of Nutrition Dietetics, and some ties to the soda industry. That so does not surprise me. Super Blessed says, he or she would like to know what things really causes melasma, and more importantly, how to get rid of it. Not on, what is melasma? Okay, that's a good, all right, I'm going to, what the heck is melasma? Maybe it's not melasma. Melasma, it's a common skin problem. Brown to gray brown patches on the face. Chloasma faciate. That's a good question. I do not know. I've never run across that in my research. Again, if you do a PubMed search for it and any dietary studies come up, let me know. I'll do a video about it. Absolutely. Sorry, I can't be more helpful. We just don't get enough good dermatology in medical school. That's one of the things. Unless you actually do a dermatology rotation, which I didn't, you just don't run across a lot of these things. Serrano asks, do I know of any specific foods that can lower bilirubin levels? Bilirubin levels. So there certainly are, I have some videos about bile acid sequestration, which like cooked beets versus raw beets and things. I don't know if that would actually lower bilirubin levels. Again, something I would have to look up. If you find a study yourself, pass it along and I will look at it. Marie asks, is ingesting a slow-release elemental iron in supplement form as safe as ingesting non-human iron in plants? No supplement is as safe as just eating it from its produce aisle source. Of course, with the exceptions being vitamin B12, which is not made by plants, not made by animals either, made by little microbes that blanket the earth. And best gotten from a supplement form. Vitamin D, not really a vitamin at all. So it's made by your skin. It's a hormone made by your skin when you're exposed to sun. But everything else, always get it from the food. So eat iron-rich foods, eat beans, and eat vitamin C-rich foods with your iron-rich foods to boost the absorption of the plant-based iron. Unless, of course, you're a man or you are a postmenopausal woman where you don't want to suffer from iron overload. You want to go out of your way to increase your iron unless you are deficient for some reason. If you are deficient, you got to find out, well, wait a second, why are you deficient? Maybe you're losing iron, and so you may want to see a GI doc to make sure you're not bleeding in your gastrointestinal tract, which can be a sign of disease. My Blue Heaven asks, is Amla powder, which is dried Indian gooseberries, ordered off the internet, safe? Well, I can tell you that all the studies that have been done on Ayurvedic supplements, which include Amla, have found no heavy metal contamination of Amla. They have, however, found heavy metal contamination of some Triphala supplements, which is a combination of Amla with 2 other plants. But it seems like if they're just doing a one ingredient thing rather than a mix, that they don't add heavy metals. That's how heavy metals end up in Ayurvedic supplements. They actually add mercury and lead, which is just crazy. But they don't seem to do that with Amla, or at least that hasn't been ever tested positive for those heavy metals. And so it should be safe. Steph asks, how to lower high testosterone levels in females. So, for example, PCOS is associated with higher kind of male hormone levels. Would a liver cleanse help? Your liver cleanses all the time. That's what livers do. You don't need to clean your liver. You just need to eat healthy. There are, so if you look at my PCOS videos, there are some things like spearmint tea, etc., that can lower testosterone levels. And so just type in PCOS and testosterone into Nutrition Facts and you get all those videos with more on the way. And, that's a good question, Shane, about intermittent fasting. But unfortunately, it's 1:30. I have got to go. I've got interviews packed till 9 o'clock tonight, from 9 to 9, 12 hours. And so I've got to run. And, but thank you, everybody. Until next month, where I'll do Facebook Lives and YouTube Lives and answer all your questions. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful month.